the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the previous people were sawed in half to leave their faith, and they still wouldn't leave their faith. Like he was saying to the Sahaba, you do not know tribulation. Well, I mean, the Muslims, traditionally, the Sunnah was to read, the Sunnah of the Muslims was to read the Mus'haf at least once a month. So you did it 12 times a year. In Ramadan, they tended to maybe do it 2, 4, or more times. And in fact, when the Prophet ﷺ complained, اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا اتخذوا قومي هذا القرآن مهجورا. My people have taken this Quran, have abandoned it. In the commentaries, they say that if you read it twice a year, that you're not under that hukm. But if it's less than that, then it's like you've abandoned the Quran. So it's good to read it. So for that reason, it was put into the ajza. And so that came later. That did not come from the Prophet ﷺ or from the Salaf. It came later. And then they did the ahzab because they read it at Maghrib and after Asr. So for instance, in Morocco, and believe it or not, every month there are 250,000 khatam in the masjids of Morocco. And that's been calculated by the Ministry of Awqaf. Since the time of the Muwahidun, the Moroccans have been reciting the Quran in the masjid, and they do it, initially they did it between, after Fajr, they did a hizb, and then after Asr, because those are times people don't pray. So it was, and those are the really good times for, بالغدو والأصال, those are the times to do dhikr. That's when the birds all congregate and do their dhikr. So that's why they did that. And then they put the thuman was for memorization, because you would do like the thuman, the ruba'. So beginning students would write the 1/8 of a hizb, and then then they would move to a thuman, and then they would move like to nisf al-hizb, and then some could learn even faster than that. So those are all to help us recite the Quran. My personal experience is I really like using the Quran Mujazza'ah, which is that has 30 different booklets, because it really facilitates for doing a wird of the Quran. And my advice to everybody is just abandon all these other awrad that you're doing and just do the Quran. Because traditionally the awrad were in addition to the Quran. Now people do the awrad and they don't do the Quran. Those awrad were done in addition to the Quran. So it's very important, if you're not doing a wird of Quran every day, you should not be doing these other awrad. If you're reciting the Quran once a month and you want to do more, you can either do more of the Quran or you can do the awrad. The adhkar al-sabah wal masa are actually preferred at that time, but you can do a very short version of them. You don't have to do these extensive. I'll tell you a secret that I realized. There's 2 reasons. It used to bother me that there were so many books on tajweed. Like, it really bothered me. Like, why do the ulama write books? There's like 1 million books on tajweed. And they all say exactly the same thing. There's no difference to any of them. They all say the exact same. Some of them are a little better produced than others, or they might have a little, but they all say. Then I realized I want to write a book on tajweed because it's brilliant. Everybody that learns from your book, you get the reward of all their recitations. So it just makes perfect sense why there's millions of books on tajweed. It's actually a really smart thing to do. And this is the same with the awrad. The shuyukh are really smart. And so they all wanted, if you're reciting the wird of Imam al-Shadhili or Sidi Ahmed Zarruq or Imam al-Haddad, they're getting all the reward of your dhikr. So it's actually really smart to do that. So this idea somehow that, we abandon this is what I think really created a lot of the Salafi impulse, was to see how far people were getting away from these fundamental things the people that are doing, Mawlid all the time, and they're not reciting the Quran and things like that. So these are things that we have to really think about. So I would definitely advise having a word of the Quran, even if it's one page. You'll get better if you get good at reciting the Quran. You can recite a juz in 20 minutes with a hadar. There's 3 modes of recitation. If you do the longer mode of tartil, then it's gonna take longer. But if you do the hadar, you can get through it in 20 minutes. And there's a great blessing in doing that every day. And in the Moroccan method, you know where you are. Like today's 17th day, which is Badr, by the way. So may Allah bless the shuhada of Badr and all the people that supported the Prophet ﷺ at that time. So that's a great blessing to do it. You begin with the lunar month, and then you'll always know where you are in the lunar month. So you'll know, is this the 16th or 17th night, that we're coming into, based on the moon sighting. So that's how they do it in Morocco. So I would really recommend that. We need to get back to the Quran devotionally, but also practically using it. I have a friend, he's a really brilliant scholar in Kuwait, very, very engaging person and wonderful to spend time with, has a really phenomenal memory. But his name is Shaykh Abdullah Ma'tuq. He runs the supporting the Ighatha there. And Shaykh Abdullah bin Bayy did something with him where they fed 1 billion meals, alhamdulillah. So anyway, he does 30 khatam every Ramadan, and so that's all he does. Like Ramadan just. So he had a friend of his, in Kuwait, who wanted to go to Medina with him and do the khatam. I want to do it every day with you. He said, no, this takes a lot of training. It's like a marathon, right? So he said, no, it takes a lot. No, he said, I can do it. So he went there and he said after Fajr, because you have to recite really fast to do it. And he turned over and the guy was asleep. So take what you can bear, just take what you're able to. I'm going to do last question, then we're done, inshallah.
Okay, Bismillah. We had several votes for a particular question to be asked, and that is, what is so special about Surah Yasin?
Yasin is called the heart of the Quran. It's the 36th chapter of the Quran. The actual physical heart of the Quran, the Wasat al-Quran is Isra, which is quite extraordinary. So the 17th chapter is the one that is the 15th juz. It begins the second half of the Quran. But Yasin, the Prophet said, Iqra'u Yasin ala mawtakum. The Prophet ﷺ said, some of the hadiths are weak, but the scholars have taken them up as having benefit. So, but everything has a heart, and the heart of the Quran is Yasin. Yasin, to me, is an extraordinary death meditation from beginning to end. So and I realized this when I did the chapter on death in the Quran, because I realized the Quran, the scent of death is on every page of the Quran. And there's a reason for that, because constant reminders of the temporality of this world will keep you on your path. And it's falling into ghafla, the heedlessness of dunya, which really is what leads people astray. And that's why events like this are so important for humanity, even though we're going to see a lot of hardships, and may Allah help us. People have to have strong iman. This is a time to really get prepared, because what's coming is going to be extremely difficult on people. The thing to remember, and this is why you read the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the previous people were sawed in half to leave their faith, and they still wouldn't leave their faith. Like he was saying to the Sahaba, you do not know tribulation. You know, like you think this is difficult. I mean, they burnt Christians alive. You know, they fed them to the lions, laughing, watching it happen. And in fact, many of the Stoics in Rome converted to Christianity because of what they saw with these Christians that were being fed to the lions, because they were all praying, and they didn't panic, and they didn't, and it was that type of faith that really had the impact. And Muslims know death. You know, Muslims know struggle. You look at the Palestinians. I mean, it's amazing what the Palestinians have been through, and the fact that so many of them still believe. I mean, there are some really secular Palestinians, but overall, the Palestinians, it's quite extraordinary how they've held on to faith, despite the fact they've been in some pretty horrific, especially the people in the West Bank and in Gaza. I mean, in the occupied territories, have been really difficult times. So Muslims know these tribulations, so that's important to remember. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah bless all of you, increase you, elevate you.